level, they do have, you know, experts who deal with the development side, because we cannot talk about customer experience without looking at development of platforms, you know. So as I said last week, customer experience, you know what, I don't have to recap. I think you have to recap. What is it that we did last week?
Oh,
I think that's fair because I'm going to be talking a lot here.
Okay. Last week we did a lot. Let me tell you. Wow, we did do a lot. So we went from lesson 97 to 102, and we spoke about delivering the digital customer experience. We spoke about what the digital customer experience is. We went through the difference between digitization and digitalization. We spoke about creating effective digital experiences. Yes. Oh, the design of an online presence, being alive in the digital space, and what we need to look at in order to, design and have an online presence. And then we looked at the pyramid of success factors on page 288. Lesson 98, web and app development. We went into what web development is, application development, what a soft launch is, CXM, customer journey again. We went into the planning of a website and designing an app. What else? Who should be involved in a website project? We went through that. Then we went to prototyping, agile software development, where we spoke about software development, prototypes, wireframes, what's agility, growth hacking. Yeah. And then, so agile software development, growth hacking, and then lesson 100, initiation of a website project. We went into domain names, URLs, bandwidths, web hosting, etc. And then we went into, after that, web performance optimization, the availability of the website. So yeah, that's my recap.
Okay, so see, we covered quite a lot of things, and everything there is centered on delivering effective customer experience. So whatever we are looking at, in terms of platforms, the outcome should be seamless, effective customer experience. Remember, we discussed customer experience, and just in brief, from your own understanding, what is customer experience?
Customer experience.
What comes to your mind?
When I think customer experience, I think of how the customer experiences the brand through the use of their online platforms and interacting and engaging with them digitally.
Okay. Though you repeated the word customer and experience in a definition. All right. You spoke about interacting and you spoke about engagement. So those are the presets of customer experience. Customer experience in brief refers to how brands engage with its customers at every point of their buying journey. So it's how a brand engage with its customers at every point. So remember, a buying journey does not necessarily mean actually buying a product. So if you visit a website, for example, you are window shopping, already you are interacting with a brand and there's a potential of you getting a product. Even if you don't get it, it's still a journey. Remember, customer journey starts from the beginning of reach up to consumption. So whatever stage they are, when a customer interacts with brands, experiences are formed at every point of interaction, and it becomes customer experience. So the reason why we then call it digital customer experience, because customer experience also applies to traditional marketing, offline marketing. The reason why we have been talking about digital customer experience, it is because with all the journey that a customer goes through, there are platforms that needs to cultivate or to initiate these journeys. So those platforms can be in a form of a website. Those platforms can be in a form of a software. Those platforms can be in a form of social media platforms and so forth. So realize that the reason why we are looking at web development, the reason why we are looking at application development, it is because these are the platforms that would determine whether digital customer experience is taking place effectively or negatively. So that's why we're looking at websites, because how are customers going to interact and engage with brands digitally if there's no website? How are customers going to engage and interact with brands if there are no applications? Remember, social media platforms are applications. Like there's an API code for Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that. So these are applications. Even software, how can customers interact and engage with brands if there's no software? So software can be in form of MailChimp to deliver a newsletter, email. It is also a platform where customers can engage with brands. So these are the things that we have been looking at since the beginning of last week, because for effective and efficient customer experience to happen, we need efficient platforms. Platforms that are going to make it easier for brands and customers to connect at deeper level. That's why we spoke about navigation. That's why we spoke about growth hacking. You need to sort of hack your website to see if everything is working. Because if something is not working, it means that it's not going to work for customers, and you might lose income as a result of that. They are going to have a negative experience with the brand, and all of a sudden it has got some damages, reputational damages, revenue damages, and so on. So that's why we are looking at platforms. So today we are going to look at the requirements for a site or an application. So in order to have an effective and efficient customer experience, what is it that is needed to be considered to say this is going to make it to make my website or to make my application a killer? So that's what you are going to be looking at. So the very first thing that you think about when you are coming up with a website, or when you are developing an application, we have got what we call a discovery or analysis phase. So this is where you ask yourself many questions. Why am I doing this? What is it that I need to achieve through doing this? So you need to discover the purpose of the website, the purpose of the application, the purpose of the software. Because if you do not discover that purpose, then it means that whatever that you are going to be doing, you won't be able to achieve the objectives. So this is using different marketing research techniques to find out the needs of the business and audience. So it can be a website, can be a mobile site, or even companies' social media pages. I think what I got from Flume is that research is done extensively. You know, you cannot talk about analysis and discovery if you don't look out for main information there. So the analysis must be used to drive design and content. You do not just say because red has been my favorite color when I was a child, or because pink, I'm more associated with this color, though, so I'm going to use these colors on my website. That's not discovery. Discovery look out for the needs of the business and the audience. What is it that is going to make sense, and what is it that is not going to make sense? So whatever that you are going to come up with on the discovery or analysis phase, it must be able to determine the design and the content of your site. So if the audience, for example, is for senior citizens, the design that you're going to have or the content that you're going to have on your site must suit senior citizens, unfortunately. So even if senior citizens are not your style, but if it is the objectives of the business and those are your target audience, it has to suit that characteristics of the audience. So there are so many questions that you need to ask yourself. Some are presented here on the screen, but they don't end there. Depending on the context, depending on the nature of the business, depending on the environment that you operate in, you need to ask yourself these questions. Who are the key audience for the site or app? So remember, here you are looking at usability. We are going to talk about usability in detail, but what you need to ask yourself is that if I'm going to target old people, if my key audience are old people, it means that I need to make the website as simple as possible, because old people are not, most of them are not digital natives. Remember, at the beginning of the year, I explained to you guys what digital natives are and digital refugees. What else do we have in the digital community?
Ooh.
If you can still remember, I know it's been a while. It was in February.
Ooh, I'm looking through my notes here. Totally slipped my mind.
Okay, so we have got the digital natives. These ones, it is our generation. We know how to use these things. We never get lost. We don't need a tutorial. We don't need a manual. If Instagram is out, we can be able to navigate on Instagram. If TikTok is out, we can be able to twerk and do whatever on Reels but if you are targeting the old population, when it comes to website and apps, you need to make sure that it's simple and straightforward, because our parents struggle with navigation. How many times do you have to help your mother or your father to load airtime on their phones? How many times do they have to ask for your services, for your tech expertise whenever they want to navigate on their mobile banking, and you end up seeing the balance in their accounts, So it shows the different understanding of the digital community. It happens a lot. Sometimes I always tell my mother that, what, on everything that I'm doing, I have to put my passwords, because I've used more than 10 passwords and you keep telling me that you can't remember anymore. And I cannot blame her for that, These things are for our generations, not for her generation. So even where I'm working at the magazine, whenever the magazine is out, people would send queries. I forgot my username. I forgot my password. And before I can even open at their subscription profile, because it's a magazine, I would already know that this person is in his 70s or in her 70s, But, for teenagers, for you guys who are tech savvy and stuff like that, it's always easier. So here, it's going to help you a lot to ask who are the key audience for the site or app. because whoever that you come across with on that discover or analysis page is going to determine the design and the content of that site or app. You don't want something that is busy for people who are more senior because they've lived a busy life themselves. Why do you have to bother them with busy designs whereby it's even difficult to navigate, difficult to order food if it's a food delivery app, difficult to look for a partner if it's a dating site. So those are the things that you need to consider when you're looking for a key audience. Then if your audience is the more energetic, the youths, you can actually know that these ones, they're not going to struggle, and they're actually going to discover more things on your website than you know yourselves. That's what you do. Then once you have identified the key audience, you then need to ask yourself, why should they use the site or app? So if it is the old people, is it necessary for them to use this site? Is it necessary for them to use this app? If it is the teenagers, is it necessary for them to use this app? If it's a kid's product, is it necessary for them to interact with this site or the app? Once you answer, remember, you answer these through research. You don't just second guess and assume. Assumption is going to lead to an assumed strategy, and that's doomed for fail. You need to have the right insights, the right data to make informed decisions. So once you know why they must use a site, you then need to ask yourself, what kind of content must they interact with? So what should be the content of the site or app be? So if it is targeting the AMA youths, it has to be the language of the youths, the language that youths understand. In the next lessons, I think we are going to talk about personalization. Remember, all these things, all these concepts, they always fall into same place. They don't operate in silo. So personalization, a customer, when he or she is on the site, they need to feel welcome. They need to have a sense of belonging. And the content is the one that drives that sense of belonging. You need to feel like, I'm not lost here. I belong here. These people are talking to me, you know. But if you use the language that you normally use to the youths, and your key audience are the elders, the senior citizens, they are going to feel insulted, you know. For example, the language like dude. Imagine someone sends a query on the site about the walking sticks that you are selling on that site for senior citizens. Then you say, hello, dude, this thing is not available in stock, is going to be delivered in 3 days. How do you think is going to be their reaction?
They're gonna be like, what? Who does he think is talking?
I hope you get the sense of what I'm trying to say here. I know I don't have the best examples, but I want to try by all means to connect with you at that level where you can understand the points that I'm trying to highlight here.
No, I understand.
Okay. So even if you have the content, you also need to ask yourself, how will the content be structured? So structured in terms of the layout, structured in terms of the sentences, Remember, all these things that we're talking about, I'm going to discuss this later as well. They need to lead to customer acquisition. You've got visitors to your website. You've got people are downloading your application. You don't want them to leave that application all of a sudden. You want them to engage with that application and convert them into customers. So you need to know how content can be structured. You also need to know how navigation will occur. Am I going to have some menus here and there so that when they are looking for household material, or when they are looking, like categorizing the product or categorizing the information? So you need to know how navigation is going to occur. And as I said, these are determined by the key audience that you've identified. For the youths, some, they always like spending time on sites. They can always find the things that they're looking for, even if it's difficult. They can always navigate. But for someone who is old, who is always busy, who is employed, who is a full-time parent, we want the menu to be visible, you know. I don't have to look for anything at the side. Everything must be at the flash of my eyes. So those are the things that you need to consider. You also need to ask yourself, what are the main marketing outcomes you want the experience to deliver, and in which context, you know? Context is very relevant, especially in this country where there's so much diversity, inclusion, you know, people have got different backgrounds. You know, you need to know the context that you're operating in. I think I showed you guys um, an advert for Dove, for Red Bull, when it was mocking Jesus for walking on top of water. I don't know if I showed you that one.
Yes, you did.
You see, so context is very relevant. Sometimes you think you're joking, but your joke is actually offensive. And we live in a society where everything is sensitive. People are sensitive to everything. You can't even joke. You can't say anything about a man's beard. You can't say anything about a woman's clothes. You can't say anything about someone's religion, you know. So you have to know the context that you're operating. Unfortunately, that's the world you are operating. You can't say anything about the farmers. You can't say anything about EFF and stuff like that, because all of a sudden you can face public backlash. I don't know if you can agree with me on that one, with everything that is happening in the country at the moment.
Yes, no, you're totally correct.
Mm. For example, who are you to tell me how I must wear when coming to Flume? You know, you are body shaming me. I'm a vegetarian. You are saying something about someone who eat meat. You are attacking my God. You are attacking my Allah. You know, those things. And sometimes when you look at how those things explode, you can just feel like, but these things it was small, it was unnecessary. Maybe an apology, a sincere apology was going to make sense, or this and that was going to make sense. So we operate in that environment where we have to tread with care, especially brands, because it's easy for customers to boycott you. It's easy for customers to come and vandalize your outlet, you know. So you need to know the context. If you're operating in racial dominated areas, you need to be able to know what to say so that you do not offend your customers. So the content that you are going to have there must always be context aligned. Are there any questions so far, or any criticism? Am I making any sense? Is there something that you need to add or subtract?
No questions, you're making sense.
All right. Then the website, one of the requirements for the websites and softwares are that it has to be user-centered. Remember, you are designing these platforms so that users must interact with brands. So we want action from customers. And the moment we are getting actions from customers, they become users. We want customers to download the application and use them. We want customers to visit the website and engage with it, so they become users. So the user-centered design, it has everything to do with the customers, not with the brand. So this helps to answer the questions in the discovery or analysis phase. It uses a range of techniques to ensure site meets customer persona. You know, and if I remember very well, I think Stephanie mentioned the word persona more than 10 times. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And this is where your weakness is, if I remember well.
Indeed.
So you can never, what I'm trying to say is that you can never evade the concept of persona in marketing. Because whenever we're creating a strategy, whenever we are coming up with communication and messaging, we need to have the persona in the mind. So here again, we are back at the persona. The user the user-centered design needs to meet the customer's persona. So you need to know who you're talking it. So this customer persona, how are you going to know it? How are you going to come across it? You are going to come across it here. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving.
Yes, I can.
Remember they say who are the key audience. So the moment you have identified the key audience, you will then be able to come up with the persona of that audience. Then once you have got the user-centered design, you then need to ask yourself, how am I going to make money out of this? Remember, the platform, in order to deliver effective customer service experience, you need good platforms. And those platforms need to bring in money, you know? So the common approach will be based on achieving performance drivers of successful digital marketing and loyalty drivers. So the website, the mobile application, whatever asset that you are going to use, the social media page, it needs to bring money, you know, and that money has to be traced. So it has to be able to deliver customer acquisition. So you need to attract as many customers as possible. And you can see that through page views, you know, unique visitors and something like that. And those customers who are coming to the website or who are using the mobile application, they need to be converted. So they need to actually buy the product, be it a service, be it a subscription. So you need to deliver, the website need to deliver customer conversion. You know, Takealot uses this model. They know that there are millions of people are coming to their site. That's customer acquisition, okay? And they know that out of those millions, there is a portion who is actually going to add something to their basket and proceed to checkout. It won't be the same number. Some just come there and go, but at least they know that you exist. Then even those that have converted, they also need to come back for more, which is customer retention. So you need repeat purchases there for customer retention to happen. And in order for customer retention to happen, you need some sort of a service quality. How can they come back if the navigation on your site is poor? How can they come back if the customer service is poor? So retention can effectively and successfully take place when there's good service, unless if you are the only one in the market, then they just feel compelled like, oh, let's go back to Razia because you can never find someone else. But if you have got many competitors, people do not hesitate to leave your product, no matter how good it is, for those who give them good experience. So if this is repeated, remember, this is not a once-off event. If it is repeated over and over and over again, it becomes part of branding. So that's how you meet the business requirements of the website or mobile application. It has to attract customers. It has to convert customers. It has to retain customers, and it has to offer service quality. Are there any questions?
No questions.
All right, that's it about lesson 103. We are going to quickly have a look at lesson 104.